Halo, Halo, scuba, like combat diver, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
CDQC down in Key West, and then Halo down in, I went to school down in Marana.
Usually it's
Arizona.
one or the other. You got both schools?
So I was the Special Troops Battalion Sergeant Major there at Fort Benning, Georgia. We had a reconnaissance company. So that was, our element. It was kind of in charge of Green Face Recce. So I went to school with them to be able to participate with them in training. And then I went to CDQC or dive school when I was a young sergeant. I was up grading lanes on EIB, if any of you guys have seen that. So I was grading the NBC station. They walked up there. They're like, hey, who wants to go to pre-scuba? I'm like, I would much rather do that than sit up here and grade lanes all day. So that was the worst 3 weeks and 3 days of my life, was going to dive school. So
I've heard fantastic stories about dive school. So that, explain why it was absolutely...
so first group, so you don't actually drown. It's a shallow water blackout. But first group, they're
you don't actually drown.
Yeah, you don't actually drown.
It just feels like it.
I mean,
You basically just get waterboarded to you black
no,
out.
that's not true. It's the buildup of carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide in your blood kind of clicks your brain out. But during pre-scuba, you do a lot of underwater work, and there's very, very controlled, very observed, but sometimes you just that the little tunnel gets tighter and tighter, and then somebody picks you up out of the water. So
think to yourself, maybe the NBC lane wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
and then you wake up somewhere else.
I will tell you that.
That's the commercial. It's like self-reflection.
So it was a very hard school, very physically fit, physically enduring school. It has a purpose in the Army. The special operations forces that use combat diver as a job, which I did not use it solely as a job. They have a very hard mission in the Army, and I very much respect what they do.
Dude, 3 weeks would be like, what was the worst experience in that?
For me, it was open water swims, because you do up to 3,000 meters of open water, spinning on top of the water. I started out and I was...
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, I felt like I was pretty fast, but I was always in swim team last. So everybody that dropped to the course, you ended up getting paired with somebody new every day. So I always had a new partner every day, every single day. It seemed like I always had a new partner, and I couldn't get used to, to build that bond. But
You dog.
that was probably the worst part of it.
Dude, that is... And you're just swimming in open water, just waves?
Yeah, finning in open water. So it was pretty neat.
And then you did Halo before tunnels, right? No. I'm not that old. Oh, okay. I was wondering about.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I spent a significant amount of time in the tunnel. I was told that I fly like a potato chip, or a piece of cardboard. Of cardboard.
Dude, once you start rocking, there's you just go. Oh.
So I will say I spent a significant amount of time in a tunnel, but I learned a lot, and it was kind of one of those things that you learn in school, and you can see how it applies out into the force.
Eli's been trying to get us into a tunnel for like a year at least.
That's the greatest thing in the world.
It's easier to get me out of a plane than it is in a tunnel.
Oh no, flying in a tunnel is like one of the funnest things to do.
I just know that Eli has this thing where he's really fucking good at a lot of shit that none of us have ever tried. And so he likes looking like the expert while we flail around and get beat against the walls.
Well played.
Just relax.
Well played. I understand that. Yeah.
It's dude. We always try to explain it, but originally with the Halo school, you'd have to do the boards. So you just literally, your training for falling out of a plane was, here's a board with wheels, and you just have to
roll around on your belly.
And then they throw you out of a fucking plane.
Yeah.
That is a wild, I could not wrap my head around
We've
that.
come a lot farther than that nowadays.
Thank God. Just imagine that. You're like, okay, you're ready. Like, just go. What was the highest jump you?
25.
And that is full.
Yeah, full oxygen, 25. So yeah, that's the highest I've done. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
You can see the natural curvature of the earth as you kind of come out.
That
That's
school.
insane.
How long was that school?
I think it was 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks, somewhere around
Did
there.
you go to sniper school too?
I did not.
Okay, I was like, what else are you hiding right there?
I did not.
I was like, you're just stacking it up.
Nope.
What year did you end up joining?
So I came in the Army in 1984. So I've been in right about 30 years.
Yep.
And you came
Pretty exciting time.
Was
Was that the year you were born?
Yeah. It sure was.
So came in the Army in 94, spent 2 years up at the 10th Mountain Division in the cold 2 or 3 years up there as a private. I actually think back very fondly on those times. I think Vern was in here a little bit earlier. Coming out of Alaska, Fort Drum, New York is a little bit different. It's really, really cold, but it's a lot of snow. And I learned a lot of things as a young private that I still keep with me today, you know, keeping a dry pair of socks, always having something else to change into, and, you know, taking care of your feet. We didn't have a bunch of stuff like helicopters or airplanes or trucks to get distracted by. Did a lot of walking as a private. And then for some reason, we either went to the Joint Readiness Training Center in the winter, or we went down to Panama. So I had been on a couple of trips down to Panama.
Nice.
And experienced the jungle down there. So
It sounds a lot better than the thick snow.
it is 100% a lot better than the thick snow. But I mean, you learn a lot up being in the snow.
Noticing a pattern. So did you intend on being in for 30 years when you joined?
So I did not actually. So here's
pattern.
Yeah. So I had like a kind of a awkward story. Grew up in a small town called Hawthorne, Nevada, and only had about 3,000 people, and we had to go like to Reno, Nevada, to go to the recruiters. And I had always said I was going to go join the Marines. Went up to go join the Marines, and like shook on the door, and it was closed. And I was like, what the heck? So I kind of like went next door to the Army guy. He goes, hey, come on in here. I got something for you. And I'm like, no, I'm waiting on the Marine. He goes, no, just come in and have a seat, and we'll sit down and talk. And about 3 weeks later, I was in the Army down there at Fort Benning, Georgia.
Totally sniped you from the Marine Corps.
Yeah. So
The Army recruiters put chains around
Absolutely,
the Marines' doors so
yeah.
you can't get in.
So
Clothesline on the front.
I was wholeheartedly going in the Marines. But, yeah, well, here I am, 30 years later, still in the Army.
Sergeant Major at the Pentagon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who'd have thought?
And now what are you doing with the military you're getting?
So I work in ASALT, the Army Acquisitions and Logistics and Technology. So we buy and modernize major programs in the Army for the Department of Defense to be ready for the next fight and to deter our nation's enemies in preparation for war.
So is that like DARPA kind of stuff, or what exactly does that entail?
It's not. It's it is really buying tanks, buying the next generation tanks, looking at helicopters and the next generation of helicopters, buying the next generation of rifles, buying the next generation of goggles.
So it's not really development, more just acquisition.
So it is more of acquisition.
Okay.
We do a part of development of current and existing programs. So the M1 tank, we do incremental improvements on the M1 tank. That is, advancements in technology. But Jay Garza, the Sergeant Major was right before me. They do kind of the research and looking at future requirements, and we do the buying of those requirements. My boss being the Army Acquisition Authority for us.
So the real question is, who did you piss off here that landed you here at this table?
I didn't piss off anybody. I mean,
That you know of.
I don't think I pissed off anybody. I think.
We've decided to unsubscribe as a punishment here. So
That's the story.
This is a new hazing.
Hold on. I'm a people person. People like me.
okay, well,
They
good.
like to talk.
We're
Okay.
happy to have you.
Actually, that's kind of a joke because I'm usually like pretty introverted, so I'm not sure.
So
I'm
who'd
not
you
sure-
piss off?
I'm not sure how I got to go last and how I ended up down here today. So.
I mean, Haney's the introverted guy.
Yeah,
I've never heard him talk before. Send him on the podcast.
That is exactly it. So they're like, hey, he can't do much harm. He's going last.
What is like with actually using weapons? You have your M4s, everything like that. I actually want, from your perspective, with shotguns getting implemented more with drone warfare, because that is the one thing I looked at. I was like, man, this is going to be, you're going to start training soldiers in a completely new area.
Yeah, I think I think you have to look at it in drone warfare as an evolving technology, and it's a layered approach. I think we have things that are going to hit them pretty far out. We have some capabilities that are EW that are pretty far out, and then as they get closer, it becomes a little more kinetic to be able to shoot them. And then if you think about your last line of defense being a shotgun, that's something where either it's pretty imminent or that you can see it right there.
I love that there's nothing new under the sun, where you got all this new technology where, I'm sure you have, jammers and all sorts of stuff, but we go right back to World War I, where you have some farm boy from Arkansas just says, "Parry this shit ass," 12 gauge.
100%. 100%. Like, we've had shotguns, and what better, reach door, shoot down small UAS that's sitting there bothering me and I can't get to it. So I do think it's the gambit of counter UAS that we're actually taking a look at. And, I think soldier innovation plays a lot into it. You give some kid from Puxatawny, Pennsylvania, a shotgun, and he's like, well, hell, there's a dang UAS. I think I could probably shoot it down.
I've accidentally been training for this since I was 11.
Yeah. So I do think, and especially in my realm now, soldier innovation plays a lot into it to solve problems throughout the Army, because it's not always the engineer that's out there that's going to fix those problems. So a lot of soldier touch points, a lot of feedback from the force, a lot of feedback from industry. And that's how we're developing the force of the future.